virtual. I was already
Right.
the only thing that was an issue was getting closer to that internship opportunity. But my therapist is actually the reason why I went back to school to get my master's specifically in social work.
Was that something that your therapist recommended to you? At some point, did you even think about that?
We have another interview, we have another guest, and this one is a special guest, and we are excited to bring her to you. Today, you guys, on Disrupt and Discuss, we are joined by the powerhouse in the field of mental health and crisis intervention, Ashleigh. She's a professional, she's a devoted mom, she has 3 wonderful children whose journey into social work is both inspiring and deeply human. After a 7-year gap, following her undergrad study, she made a bold decision to return to school and earn her master's in social work right in the midst of C-19. Balancing motherhood, remote classes, in an uncertain world, her path has been a testament to purpose and persistence. Ashleigh has interned at Group Homes, served as a case developer for guardianship, general dispute cases, experiences that gave her firsthand look at complexities of advocacy and capacity in vulnerable populations. Her postgraduate, she continued to evolve her career with depth and compassion, working as a case manager in the psychiatric hospital, serving on the psychiatric response team, conducting 5150 evaluations, and taking on some of the toughest calls as part of the 988 crisis response team at the county level. Today, she brings all that experience into her current role as a medical social worker, where she helps patients and families navigate some of life's most challenging moments with empathy, skill, and heart. We are honored to have her on the show to discuss the realities of crisis work, the balance between career, motherhood, how social workers like her are on the front lines of healing, especially during the difficult holiday season. Welcome, Ashleigh.
Thank you.
Yay! You got that's what I said, you're a powerhouse.
I try.
That's a long list.
How my track record was before I got into mental health is going to be even longer. So
Right. We are just honored to have you here. So let's get into the conversation about who you are, what you're doing. So I'll give it over to the heavy hitter, Casey.
Oh, yeah, heavy hitter. But first of all, I want to thank you for the time you're putting into speaking with us because I know you have a busy schedule. For those that aren't aware, Mental Health Awareness Month, which is why we definitely are especially glad that you were able to step away to speak with us. With the holidays approaching, I know that's starting to settle with a lot of people, the anxiety that moves forward with that, and also to share some of the resources that are available to people that they don't even realize are out there. I definitely want to dive into the conversation, and I'm sure that if it can even help just one person, it will definitely be worth the time and effort that we're putting forward to speak with you today.
no problem.
With that laundry list of things that you've done, what was the main thing that got you into this field? I know there was that 7-year gap and the pandemic, and it had a lot of people choosing new paths, discovering old paths. What was the catalyst to make that happen for you?
I knew I wanted to go back to school to get my master's at some point, but I just didn't know what I wanted to get it in. I didn't want to go back to school and just waste money on a degree that I probably wouldn't even utilize, especially when it's a master's. You want to be able to financially benefit from that in the end.
Absolutely.
In undergrad, I went out of state and obtained my bachelor's in broadcast communications. I worked at a radio station. It was fun, but I couldn't make any money from it. Then I started working at Starbucks and other jobs because I ended up having a kid not too long after I graduated from undergrad. I came back to California and I started seeing a therapist because there was a lot going on in my life that I needed somebody professionally to help me get through it. My therapist had recommended social work, and he was like, why don't you just go back to school and just get your master's in social work? I didn't really know what I wanted. He explained the benefits of the degree and what type of opportunities would unleash for me. So I said, okay, fine. So I applied online because at that time I had 2 kids. I was working in insurance and I didn't want to put it on my parents to watch the kids when I went to school. I couldn't do in person because I would be 100% rely on them. And if it was a day that they couldn't watch them, it would cause a lot of chaos. I said, screw it, I'll just look online. I went online, applied, and I got in not too long after I started, maybe 6 months or a year, COVID hit. I'm glad I did it because a lot of schools had to transition to virtual. I was already
Right.
the only thing that was an issue was getting closer to that internship opportunity. But my therapist is actually the reason why I went back to school to get my master's specifically in social work.
Was that something that your therapist recommended to you? At some point, did you even think about that in the past? I was thinking about that, and then my therapist said I should do it. So some people take that as confirmation as, oh, this is what I really need to be doing.
To be honest, no, I didn't even think about social work. I didn't even know. Everybody would always say, get your degree in business. And it's, yeah, that's good. But I'm like, what would I actually use that for? Like, what type of jobs? There was no jobs
Correct.
with that degree that really interests me. So at that time, I really didn't know. Once he told me that, I did research the industry and saw that it did provide a lot of benefits. And so he was the one to tell me to go for the LCSW, which is the licensed clinical social worker, versus the licensed marriage family therapist, which is short for LMFT. So he was explaining the differences to me, and told me that the social work route would be the better one for me, and it opens a lot more opportunities. So I took that advice because I felt like a lot of decisions that I was making myself weren't always the correct ones. So I said, I'm already paying him for advice, so let me just take this.
Bang for your buck, huh?
Right?
Yeah, I said, let me just take this and run with it. Since I've done it, I'm mad that I didn't do this career sooner. What I did before was cool, but I had kids. I applied for different radio stations when I used to live out of state, and just opportunities weren't presenting to itself. But then I also was living in they call it a larger market. So it was a lot of competition and trying to get jobs in that field. And also I had like a radio show in college. I was really into it, but I realized there's not a lot of money. There's not a lot of money to be made, especially when I had kids. But yeah, like I said, the locations of a job sometimes. But other than that, I wouldn't change it.
How many clients do you have?
As a medical social worker, it varies. It's not like a therapist where you have a list of recurring clients. As a medical social worker, we'll have a list of people depending on the services we are over. I can have sometimes maybe 30, which is a combined of the different services that I have, but we're a referral base, right? So I might have 30 or 40, and I might only have a referral for maybe 5. Some of them might need to be connected to community resources, transportation. Sometimes it's getting families acclimated with the durable power of attorney documentations and walking them through that. So it just can vary.
You said it depends on the services. What type of services do you offer to people?
So I work at a big hospital. We work with inpatient patients. The services that I help right now is always changing depending on the need. Cardiology, gynecology, and I'm also learning because I didn't come from a medical social work background. I was more in crisis.
Prior to this position that you currently are in, you're saying, what was it, a crisis that you were
Correct.
dealing with? If I remember correctly, speaking with you before, you would be the one that say you have somebody that's out there acting irrational or erratic out on the street. I would call you versus calling a police officer. You would be able to take a different approach as opposed to law enforcement.
So
No.
988 is the mental health like emergency number. So instead of calling, if you're going through a mental health crisis, depending on the county you live in, you call 988, you're dispatched and you tell them what's going on and where you are. They can dispatch you to the local county crisis workers. And so I was part of a team where we would go out to the person that is in a mental health crisis. So it can either be the person calling upon themselves, or it can be a family member or friend, or even sometimes people at their jobs are going through something and somebody might call 988. So 988 is a national crisis number. So it's not even just in California, any state, you can call 988 and then they will have people that will be able to service them. We would go and assess the situation because even though you're going through a crisis, we have to make sure the environment is also safe for us to come and service you as well. We've gone to some sketchy areas.
Tell me a story.
I'm trying to think because one thing
Did
about
not know
me,
you were coming on the show.
because I also have some coworkers have told me stories that I felt were better than my own experiences. My approach is a little more direct. I'm empathetic and compassionate, but I'm more direct. Some of them let things fester. For example, one of my coworkers went out on a call, and I think the lady called them on herself. And so they're in the process of talking with her, but she's not all the way there. And she's there, and then she's not making sense with her conversation. Then she had her dog. Then she started making out with her dog. The husband came out, and he was not dressed, so they didn't know what to do. And I was like, yeah, y'all better than me. I would have either told the lady she needs to handle that business at a later time or just leave. So
She was,
Don't repeat it, please.
hey,
but I would say there was a person that always stands out to me. It was an older gentleman. He was suicidal, and he actually had walked to one of the little overpasses because he was going to jump. And so when he started walking, his house was over a mile from that area, and he really shouldn't have been walking. Sometimes when people are in a depressive state, they don't think about their actual medical needs and certain things they shouldn't be doing. They're just in that current crisis. He had walked to the overpass and he was about to jump. As he was walking, there were crosses there. So somebody else must have passed. I don't know if that person passed. And we'll just call him Bob. So Bob was walking and he saw the crosses and it said Bob's name. So that actually really scared him a little bit because he was like, somebody died who had my exact same name. He decided not to do it. He was walking back, but he was too tired. So a nice lady with her kid in the car picked him up and took him home. Then he called the crisis team for us to come and meet with him. We met with him and started talking with him. peeling back layers. He's an older gentleman. One of his kids had moved out. He has a son. I think he's autistic, but he's trying to do his own thing. He had a girlfriend and he just had work and nothing else. He was already battling with other suicidal things. There was other things that contributed towards it, but he realized that he wanted to live and get the mental health treatment that he needed. He just didn't know how to go about it for himself. We were in his house. He said we would also go into people's houses too. So I said we were talking to him and he's okay, I'll go get help. He was willing to go with us so we can drop him off so he can get the treatment that he needed. So we were like, okay, do you want to pack a bag? And he said yes. And we thought that he fell asleep and left us. He just left us in his house unattended for about 30 minutes. And we're like, do we go and check in? So about 30 minutes, he came back with his bag and everything. And we took him and talked with his family. I thought that was pretty good because this person, if we didn't go to him, he might have probably, we don't know if he would have tried again or felt like, hey, if nobody cares, then.
Maybe I'm just not in the know. I didn't know anything about 988.
Yeah.
You know 911.
Which is why they're always flooded with calls because that's what everybody knows.
You see these instances where people call 911 on a loved one because they just need some help, but that person has some mental issues. And unfortunately, some of them end up tragic because the police officers don't really know how to handle this. But it's like, why are we advertising 911 and not equally advertising 988? Because I don't know about it, but obviously if I did, I would call 988 instead of 911 on a loved one that had some mental issues.
I would say 988 is starting to catch a little bit more notoriety now. There's sometimes even with TV shows that at the end they talk about suicide awareness. So now you're starting to see a little bit more notoriety when it comes to 988 with certain billboards, commercials on radio stations and TV shows. So it's picking up, but it's still not there yet. But yeah, the 988 is supposed to be a buffer between the individual and law enforcement, because even though law enforcement, they have a lot of training, they don't have a lot of training when it comes to mental health. So they may not necessarily know how to approach somebody who is probably schizoaffective or bipolar. They're thinking about safety first. So again, they don't necessarily have the training, and I don't knock them because it is a lot of training that they already have to do to protect and serve. So when it comes to mental health, there's a lot of complex areas when it comes to mental health. That can be a lot. So the county that I live in, a lot of officers actually don't attend to any crisis calls, which is a story in itself. It sucks because even though we're crisis workers, we're not armored with things to protect ourselves if that person does escalate. Because I've also had a coworker who's attended to a call. You always go as a pair, you never go by yourself. So I had a coworker, they went on a call and the person didn't want them there. Just because you might feel that a person might need help, they may not necessarily feel that way, and they can refuse our services because it's voluntary.
If I'm calling on a family member and the family member I'm calling on doesn't want to be bothered, then they can refuse any help that you might be trying to.
This person is posing signs of danger to themselves, danger to others, or greatly disabled. Those are the three criterias that we could escalate. So if a person is talking about, if you called and said, hey, Jane Doe is suicidal and wants to unalive herself, we're not going to be like, oh, she doesn't want her services, but it's no, this person is literally making, then it's like, hey, even though it goes from not being a voluntary state to the point where we have to escalate this and call the ambulance because we wouldn't be able to transport the individuals. It just escalates. So then we would have to put them on the holds, call law enforcement. It's a plethora of things. But I've been very fortunate to work on multiple areas within mental health, from working at a psychiatric facility, then working at a hospital where I did 5150s. Before, I just dealt with people who were already on holds. This stuff really excites me. I never thought that.
The difference then being when you are a crisis worker, I don't know if it's you specifically or in general, that they are automatically able to do the 5150 holds, or do you have to be certified even though you're in that department? So then you can do it, but I can't.
Yes, you have to be certified in order to put somebody on a psychiatric hold. You have to be certified within your county. If you're certified in Alameda County, you can't come to Contra Costa County, Sacramento County.
Oh, okay.
Hold. Yeah, so certain things, because you have to take a class, and then we have to take a test and get certified, and then we get the certification that we're able to do 5150s, and that usually lasts for about 2 years. Then you have to recertify in order to do that. So it was interesting. I think I'm up in one county. I used to have capability to write holds in 2 different counties. But also, don't come over here, I'm gonna put you on a hold. No, but you have to actually be in your physical workplace to do that. Even though I'm able to write holds, I have to be in my designated work area in order to do that. When I was a crisis worker, we would be able to do it in the fields because I was working at the county, and our crisis work allowed us to be in the community. So that was part of our duties. But now, as a medical social worker, even though I'm still certified from when I was working in the county, that's not my role now. I'm dealing with people that are either already on the holds, that came in on the holds, either from law enforcement already, or psychiatry team, or one of the ER social workers. Social workers can put people on 5150 holds. You have the psychiatry team as well. So there's
Okay.
specific people that can put you on a hold. Law enforcement
Okay.
can put you on a 5150 hold as well.
My question was, what is the criteria? Just in case I want to get somebody locked up with a 5150.
Oh,
What's the criteria?
oh.
I want to make
Just
sure that I
personal
don't meet that
reference.
criteria. I want to make sure I don't meet the criteria of 5150.
Okay,
even though I'm
so
kind of crazy.
You're an entrepreneur. That's it right there.
Hey, when I was at work one time, I was joking with one of the security guards.